Hi, we're here today to talk about the XpressPort carts, specifically the XpressPort Link cart and how to assemble it. So the first thing you need to know is check your parts when you get the XpressLink out of the box. You should have 6 of these longer carriage bolts that take a 9/16 inch socket, and then you have shorter ones that take a 3/8 socket. The long ones are for assembling the tower to the base. The short ones are for assembling the forks on the side. The other thing that we have that's a little interesting in this cart is we've got some special cotter pins. Have a little circle and a little bit of hook. You should have some of those, so you'll need potentially a pair of needle nose pliers if you need to remove them. Putting them on, you don't need them. Taking them off, you wouldn't need those. So basically, tools needed, needle nose pliers, 2 different socket sizes, and a socket and wrench. The other items to check out when you get them out of the box are going to be your forks. You should have 2 forks. They'll be bubble wrapped. You have 2 adjusting plates for the forks that are the smaller pieces. You should have the column assembly with the handle and the foot pedal, and you should have your base with the 4 casters, and it should have the connector for the training ability. Okay, now we're at step 1. Step 1, we have the handrail piece and we have the foot pedal. It lays broken down flat in shipping, but you're gonna wanna raise that foot pedal. It'll have a spring attached to it over here. Then you have these triangular pieces here, and they have these special cotter pins on them already. So you need to remove those cotter pins, and to remove them, it's kind of an out and up motion. Gravity's going to want you to keep that down. We need to connect that post inside this hole, and so the gravity will want to keep that down. We don't want to do that. It'll bind up on you once you get up into the upright position. So what you want to do is make sure that that linkage goes up. Again, down is bad, up is good. Once you're up, then go into the hole, secure it with a cotter pin, and it's good to go. Again, if you don't do that where it's in this angle, if it's in the reverse angle, it will bind on you once you get to the cart itself. So you want to do that same thing on both sides. Both up, cotter pins on both sides, you're good to go to step 2. All right, now we're at step 2. In step 2, we've got to take this handle assembly and we've got to go up onto the base and mount it with our carriage bolts. So you may want some help to do this. It can be done with 1 person, but always would recommend 2 people to be as safe as possible. So you're just lining up the carriage bolts with the square holes. I have to play with it just a little bit to coax it through. Then take your 3/8 nuts and go onto that. You'll take your 3/8 socket once you get to that point and cinch them up. With everything that you're assembling, I wouldn't gorilla tighten them just yet. I would just get them on there and kind of just a little bit better than finger loose or finger tight. That way we can still play with any adjusting that needs to happen. Okay, here we're at step 3. Step 3 is connecting this spring linkage. This is what allows the foot pedal to go up and down with your stack and your forklift. There's a cotter pin here. That's one of our fancy cotter pins. That just comes off and out. Then the spring itself needs to hook around that post. It doesn't need to go in the hole because that's where your cotter pin goes. Done that before. It just runs right across this post. I advise that someone steadies the cart while you do this because there's a bit of tension on this. We're gonna put the pedal as high as we can get it to try to close that gap, but then you're gonna need your needle nose pliers kind of just creep around here, grab it by this end. It's spring loaded, so be careful. Then you're just gonna stretch it. Right onto that post. My pliers kind of got in the way a little bit there, but should just stretch over right onto that. Then take your cotter pin, secure that spring, get it on over the whole thing, and you're good to go. Now we're to step 4. There's a little bit of research that needs to be done on step 4 with the chairs that you're trying to use these carts with. These XpressLink carts are designed to be universal, so they fit with a lot of different shapes and sized chairs. Even within the Mighty Light brand of chairs, we have different configurations, widths, heights, pickup points, and those types of things. So you need to do some quick measuring to figure out where you need to set your forks. Your forks can go in 4 different widths. They can be at 15.5 inches wide, they can be at 14 inches wide, they can be at 13.5, and they can be at 12. So you've got those 4 selections. And so the first step you want to do is look at your chair that you're wanting to pick up and measure the width of that frame. So this particular frame that I've got here is measuring at 16 inches. So I could put it at 15.5, but I'm only going to give myself about a 1/4 inch leeway on either side of that chair. With what we all know in different facility setups and takedowns, it's not a good idea to give everybody a 1/4 inch clearance before they're banging the sides of that frame. So what we want to do is go to the 14. That'll give us enough clearance on both sides to be able to cleanly get in and get out. Let's walk through how you get those different widths. So you've got these 2 plates that connect between the frame and the cart itself, but you notice you've got this L-shaped groove here, okay? So as you move through, if I set up this cart with both forks in this position, that's gonna be the widest that I can go, and that's gonna be the 15.5. If I flip those around and go this way, that makes it that 1.5 inches narrower. So this gives us the 14 inch width that we want. If we want to go the next step down, then you switch them again, go wide again. It's kind of like an inner and an outer, and as it crimps, it goes wider. So this would be your 13.5, and then if you wanted to go to your 12 inch wide, you'd be narrow on both sides on the inside of that post. So that's how you get your width. Let's talk about the height. So the next thing you want to do is take a look at the chair that you're trying to pick up. Each chair is a little different. You got to look at what is your pickup point on the chair. This particular chair has these 2 sway bars that are sitting down here. So I need to measure that as my low point where it's going to pick up the chairs. And so when I measure that, it's just under 13 inches. So I need to consider that when I'm applying the forks. So as I go over to the cart, which I've turned around from where we were in step 3, I want to look at these holes right here and determine where does 13 inches put me. So if I measure in there, it puts me right here. If I put that fork in at this height here, I'm still going to hit that sway bar. So I want to make sure that I get underneath it enough. So I'm going to put it in here. I believe that's the 6th hole up, and I'm going to mount those forks right in there. Keep in mind that this pedal is at the lowest point with the fork. So that's why you want to be underneath that low point on your chair. As you pump this pedal, it'll increase the height to pick up the stack. So you just want to make sure that you start low enough to get into the chair and you can pick it up cleanly. Securing the forks, now that we know the position of the height and the width that we want to put them and get them secured on the chassis. So the first thing I recommend, you've got this little spacer plate in here. It looks like a car seat. So it's going to go in this position when it matches with the fork itself. These 2 points secure into the chassis itself. This 3rd point, I'm kind of going upside down here, it just secures into that plate. So let's do that one first so that we're not having to fight it as we try to get onto the cart. I'm also going to call out that you've got this little arrow piece that's on this bottom corner. That's to allow you several positions to get into the forks. That's for your dual pitch. It's one of the adjusting points for the pitch of the cart for your chairs. So go into that low point. Put these guys on here. Again, just finger tight right now until you get everything kind of honed in so everything's all connected before you can tighten it up. They've got seated heads on the carriage bolt, so you might have to spin the heads a little bit and play them to get them to seat into the hole all the way. If you see it sticking up a little bit, just wiggle it around and it'll drop in. Okay, so that gets you to the point where you need to be able to pick up a chair. Okay, we're kind of near the end of this step 6. Just at this point, we've got the forks on, they're the right width, the right height. There's a couple adjustments I want to call out for your pitch. So the pitch is the angle of your forks coming into your stack. Some people have more forward-leaning stacks versus straight-up stacks. And if you have more of a forward-leaning stack, you're going to want to adjust the pitch of the forks to kind of canter down so that when you pick that stack up, it's going to rock the stack back so you don't lose any chairs on the stack. Standard banquet chairs most of the time don't need to be rocked back, but it's just a preference thing depending on the chairs that you have, and you can adjust this cart into 2 different pitch positions. So one place that you adjust this is that little hole that I was telling you about in step 5, where you've got the bolt position, which will adjust. I've still got this loose, I haven't tightened it up yet. It'll move that and play with the pitch a little bit. The second place is back here. You see this hole that's in here. Most of the time this works for most people, but if you did need to bring that pitch back for the chairs that you have, you can undo this step here and put them in the forward holes, which pull those forks back into a different pitch. Lastly, one of the great benefits to this cart is you do have these 4 swivel casters. You can see at some points all 4 will swivel. The front 2 have the ability to lock. And the reason for that is for steerability when you have multiple XpressLink carts linked together like a train. So this opens up and comes across and connects into the next XpressLink cart. If we go to the back of the cart, you'll see these hookup points on the back of the cart where that drops and closes over. So once you get 3 or 4 of these chained together, you would lock the casters of the XpressLink carts that are in between the train and let the one in the back steer. So if this was the one in the back, I would want these unlocked to swivel. You can also play with it sometimes depending on the radiuses and the corners that you have in your building. You may need to unlock the front, unlock the back. Just depends on how you like to turn and how you like to steer. It's kind of a preference. But they are steerable and they are linkable, and that makes them one of the great advantages of this cart. We want to check this out, make sure all our adjustments work the way we planned on it. If they don't, then we'll need to make some micro adjustments, but we're going to test it out. So let's look at what this amazing cart can do. You want to come right into the back of the car, the chair, pick it up, press that pedal down. There's a locking mechanism right down here. As I get down there, you're gonna hear a click. It should link right on that little silver bolt post looking thing right there. Now you're locked. The chair is off the ground, your stack of chairs are off the ground, and you can go for your walk wherever you need to take that chair. To release that, you're going to step back down on that, push on this yellow foot pedal, and up, and it drops the stack. Remove your forks and go get your next stack.